Hey friends, so you will be wondering why am I showing you this picture. This picture is basically a story from the Greek mythology called as the Nine Curse. So this man on nine was a lover of these water nymphs, but he was a bad man and was cursed to lose some automatic functions. So how is this story related to my topic and what is my topic? So my topic is neural regulation of respiration. Myself, Leeladhar Nabar, a first year MBBS student from St. James Medical College in Mumbai. We all know that respiration is a very vital process, and so that there are no derangements in this vital process, it has to be heavily regulated. And so in this chapter, we are going to see the same. So we are going to see this presentation in part of 4 questions. In the last part, I will be expanding upon the story. So let's see the first part, which will be dealing with the centers in the brain stem which control the respiratory rhythm. So there are 4 centers in the brain stem. So in the medulla there are 2 and the pons 2. So in the medulla you have the dorsal respiratory group located in the nucleus tractus solitarius, which is responsible for maintenance of the respiratory rate, and a ventral respiratory group which is present between the nucleus ambiguous and nucleus retroambiguous, which though it controls both inspiration and expiration, its main use is in forceful expiration. Then in the lower pons we have one center which is called as the apneustic center. Apneustis in Greek means breath holding, so the stimulation causes prolonged inspiration, but we do not want prolonged inspiration, and so it is inhibited by a center present above it, the pneumotaxic center in the nucleus parabrachialis, which limits the inspiration by inhibiting the apneustic center, and so it also increases the inspiratory rate. So this is a summary what I have just said. Having known these centers now, uh, we will look at the respiratory rhythm. But before that, we must also know a new element of research which has been done in the past few recent years. So they have found a new complex which is called as the pre-Bolzinger complex, and this complex located in the ventral medulla between lateral reticular nucleus and the nucleus ambiguous is said to be the pacemaker of respiration, just like we have the SA node in the heart. So let's understand how is the respiratory drive initiated, and for the same we have various models, but we will take an easy model which is the emergent property model. So according to this emergent property model, the respiratory generation is like an interplay of various signals from various neurons, and the main two neurons that are there are called as the CIA neuron or the central inspiratory activity neuron and the inspiratory off switch neuron, the IOS neuron. So another neuron is the integrator neuron, which, as the name suggests, integrates various responses or various signals from higher centers like the cerebral cortex, the pons, and the medulla. The pink stands for stimulation, and medulla stands for inhibition. So let's see how it is done. So the central inspiratory activity generates the inspiratory ramp. It is like a small to big signal, so it's a ramp, and simultaneously it stimulates the integrator neuron, which will integrate responses. In normal conditions, we have from the cerebral cortex, dorsal pons with a stimulatory, and from medulla which is inhibitory. In some conditions, you can also have the vagal afferents, and by integrating these responses, it will again signal to the inspiratory off switch neuron, which will inhibit the CIA neuron, and thus the inspiration will come to an end. Now we have to note one thing here, that is for normal respiration to continue, these pink responses or the stimulatory responses must be at least 2 in number, minimum 2. Okay, otherwise the respiration will not continue normally. So having understood the respiratory generation, now let's understand some factors or reflexes which influence them. They're grouped under 4 headings. So first we have the reflexes mediated by the pulmonary stretch receptors, namely the Herringbauer inflation reflex and Herringbauer deflation reflex. So the receptors for them are slowly adapting stretch receptors, and their signals are transmitted to the CNS through large myelinated vagal fibers. So the protective reflexes in the sense that if we consider the Herringbauer inflation first, the overinflation, that is beyond 3 times the tidal volume, there is an expansion beyond 3 times the tidal volume, then the inspiratory activity will be inhibited, and by this the inspiration is lessened while the expiration is lengthened, and heading to a deflation reflects the opposite. It does not allow the lung to collapse. So if there is deflation, then the expiration will be decreased and inspiration will be increased. These are protective reflexes. Then we also have certain rapidly acting receptors present in the airways and the lungs, meaning larynx, trachea, bronchi, which stimulate the cough reflex if they are stimulated by something like histamine or dust particles by sending their afferents to the ventral respiratory group. As we know, it is meant for forceful expiration. These are the organs involved in the forceful expiration. We also have the J receptor reflex. These are juxtacapillary receptors which is present adjacent to the pulmonary capillaries, which respond to pulmonary congestion, and they send the afferents to slowly conducting vagal C fibers, and the response elicited is rapid shallow breathing, tachypnea, and bradycardia. Last but not the least, we have the proprioceptors present in muscles and joints. As we all know, that these are responsible for the ventilation increase present in voluntary or rigorous exercise. So let's come back to the story. So So I told you about this online curse, and a clinical term for it is a congenital central hypoventilation syndrome. That the people who, this is a very rare disease, they have lack of the pre-Bolzinger complex, and as a result, automatic control over breathing is lost. And if they do not find some solution, then they can even lose their life in the sleep. And so the solution that remains for them is mechanical ventilation. So this is my presentation. This is the end of it.